Our panelists will share their stories exploring themes of courage, commitment, sacrifice, patriotism, integrity, and citizenship. They're true heroes who have risked everything for our nation, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to hear their stories. Without further ado, please welcome Mr. Anthony.
Before I jump into the questions, one, I just want to say I think this is the most excited, energetic audience we've ever had. So thank you. It's already a great event. And you should be, because this is a fantastic event. We work with the Medal of Honor Foundation and Society for several years now. In this event alone, we've had almost 10,000 students who've had a chance to hear from a living Medal of Honor recipient. There are only 71 living Medal of Honor recipients. It is tougher to be a Medal of Honor recipient than to get elected to Congress. And when you look at the results, you can see why sometimes. But we're very excited to have them. I want to recognize a couple of the special guests we have in our audience today. From the Reagan Library, the Executive Director, Duke Blackwood, is here with us today, so thank you very much, Duke. From our senior staff on the Reagan Foundation side, Melissa Giller and Joanne Drake, thank you for joining us this morning. Our longtime partner at the Medal of Honor Society, Kathy Metcalf, and the amazing education team at the Medal of Honor Society. Thank you very much. And one more group. So I want to ask, just in honor of what we're doing today, anybody who has served our country at any point, and a very special subgroup. So one, I want to recognize veterans. So if you're a veteran, stand up in just a second. But a very special group of veterans. We have a number of Medal of Honor recipients who are here in the audience who you welcomed when they walked in earlier. But it's just a true delight for us to have this many Medal of Honor recipients at this event. So if you are a veteran, including our Medal of Honor recipients, please stand up and let us say thank you one more time for your service. All right, so each year when we do this, we do a theme. And our theme this year, I was talking about it with Kathy, and she said, well, what about Foundations of Character? It's a character development program. Foundations is great. And I said, okay, let's run with that. And then I was talking to Britt yesterday. Britt went out to Royal High School, in our amazing Royal High School JROTC students. Thanks again for being so helpful to us today. Talked a little bit about a foundation that you were building up in Idaho. So I was wondering if you could kick us off with that story.
Oh, the house?
Yeah,
house building?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it totally caught me off guard with that.
Sorry. That's my job as moderator. I'm throwing curveballs all day long.
Good. Yeah, so this year, last year, we purchased property in Idaho, and you're saying, well, why Idaho? Well, for us, the math works. There's people per square acreage. Really divide them together, and we came up with a solution. Yeah, that's a place for us to go. So I decided, my wife and I would decide, hey, let's just go ahead and build a small house, right? And I was like, yeah, that can be pretty cool. Yeah, okay, never done that before in my life. So a few things I ruled out doing this, that I'm never going to do concrete work again, never going to do framing, never going to do drywall, we're never doing insulation again. The list goes on and on. So it was quite a learning experience. But yeah, thankful for it. I don't know if that's what you were going.
Well, and very specifically, you were talking about pouring the foundation, the forms for the concrete, and
yeah. So going back to where we're never going to do this job again. How many of you have done concrete work in here before? Okay, so you can empathize here. You're building a concrete form with plywood, and to hold the concrete all in shape and forms, right? It's like, how hard can this be? Okay, well, how much does concrete really weigh? I mean, it's tons and tons. So we build this form, and it's going to be a wall about that deep, and about that wide, and maybe about that long. So we're talking maybe 3 yards of concrete, which is considerable. So we're pouring it. The concrete gets about that far from the very top, and we're like, yeah, this form's going to work. Except for you start to hear wood pop. You ever hear wood cracking? And I'm standing here, and I got this wall in front of me of concrete, wet concrete, and sure enough, what happens? The form just explodes, pours out. Right now I'm in concrete up to my knees, and it's, yeah, as you can imagine, chaos sets in at this point. Like, okay, one, I got to get out of the concrete, or else I'm staying here permanently. Yeah, it was quite a learning experience indeed. So thankful none of you were there to see my professionalism in action.
Well, and the reason I thought that would be a good way to start today's forum is when you talk about the foundations of character, it can be messy work, right? It's not easy. Just like when you pour concrete into a form, there's no necessarily guarantee it's going to stick it or it's going to turn out the way you want to. But in order to build something important, you have to do that work, you have to prepare. And so when you get character isn't, you don't just wake up in the morning and flip a switch and you're filled with character, right? It takes a lot of hard work. And so what I want to do, I want to dig in a little bit to each of your stories and hear a little bit about the foundations of your character, where it went right, where the form's held. Sometimes I'm guessing we're not perfect. Maybe there's some fun stories about when it didn't quite go right for you. But because we have an audience full of students, I want to start back when you were younger. And when you think, when you're a kid, maybe the first person or the first real important character lesson you ever had, something that sticks with you to this day, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
What's the first thing that comes to mind to me? Well, I'm going to tell this story that when I was growing up in high school, I guess I didn't know what my first name, what it really was. I went to high school, my name was Dennis. And I went in the Army at 17. And if anybody's been in the Army, you know when the drill instructor starts to call the very first roll. And the way they do that is they call your last name and you answer with your first name and middle initial. So I answered Dennis D. Well, the first person that impressed me in the military was that drill sergeant with this long silence. And he answers, he calls the last name again, and I call out my first name is Dennis D. And then he says, from then on, he said, the man that doesn't know what his first name is, my name is Drew, it always was. But that's not what I went to high school with. So you could imagine, in the day when they didn't have instantaneous communications like cell phones, I went all through basic training. I went to advanced infantry training, and I went to jump school, and they knew when I got there that I was the guy that did not know his. So I have to say that probably set the stage for me for my entire life, because I did more push-ups when I walked across the field at Fort Benning, Georgia, where they have the jump towers, and you're not really supposed to walk, you're supposed to run wherever you go. And I had a number, 115, and they say, number 115, the guy that doesn't know his name, drop wherever you are and give us 20. So that sergeant, I'll never forget that silence, what a silence can do to you. And so going through life telling people that don't be silenced because you scare the hell out of folks when you go that way. Say what you mean to say.
Excellent. So character lesson number one, remember your name.
Remember your name and never forget it. And even to this day, when someone calls me Dennis, I want to drop and do
Excellent. Thank you. Ryan, what about you?
Remember that.
You know, I don't have any fun stories of messing up my name. But when I think back, a character and a huge influence on my life was my old man. And just how hardworking he was. And this has kind of just been an ongoing lesson that he's always taught me. And it goes back to the recession, 2008, 2009. My old man ran his own business doing construction. And he was a machinist prior to that by trade. And working with residential housing, you know, the downturn with the housing market meant downturn in business for my old man. And, you know, despite things getting hard, my old man would run his business during the day from 7 to 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Then he would come home, he'd get changed, and he'd go to a second shift machinist job, work that, then come home 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, take a shower, get cleaned up, go to sleep for 4 or 5 hours, and get up and start all over again. And he did that for about 3 years. All while at the same time, my parents have, I call it a hobby farm, so they don't make any money on it, but they have some chickens and horses, and my old man was big into pigs, still is, you know. but he would get up and take care of the animals and do it at night, and he just, for 3 years, never complained, just got up and did it. And the lesson that I continue to take away from him, because he's tougher than I'll ever be, and he's still like that, is just because something's hard doesn't mean we don't do it. You do it in spite of that.
Excellent. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Britt, what about you? Early character influence.
Yeah, early character influence. So I grew up in western Massachusetts, a little town called Northampton. 2 older sisters, but into certainly a working class family. My mom had to work, dad had to work. And I think all of us in here, we're all products of everyone we interact with. We all have mentors, both good and bad mentors. We just have to learn from their mistakes in front of us. So going through, early on, I remember I learned a great deal from my father about things, about how to fix things and work hard. But I think I learned probably much more from my mom about just being patient, more about compassion than just about anyone else. Just the stoic example that my mom gave, knowing how hard it was. She was working all day. Many of you can relate to this. And then she's come home and she's got to take care of the 3 kids. And your kids, your children, they're always watching you, everything that you do, even the little tiny things. And I always just remember watching my mom, how graceful she was going about doing everything. And that piece doesn't really strike you, I think, until you're a parent yourself, really looking back and to see how graceful that they dealt with that stuff. And then my father, he introduced me to Boy Scouts at a very early age as well, too. So I went through Cub Scouts and Scouting. And I don't know, how many of you are in Scouting programs here now, right? So that really started to form the framework of who I would become and pretty much the guiding principles of my life getting into Boy Scouts, the Boy Scout oath. I don't know how many of you can recite that Boy Scout oath now that we're Boy Scouts, but it begins with, on my honor, I'll do my best to do my duty. Little did I know until much later on in my life how much of an influence that would have on me.
Excellent. Thank you. What about you, Tommy?
I'm going to follow right along with that. I think my parents were the people that were the real influence on me as I was growing up. I had 2 brothers, one older, one younger, and we were taught the character traits that were the foundation of how I did grow up and what I have today. My dad was extremely influential in that, and he kept teaching me that your character is who you really are. Your reputation is what people think you are, and never give up on that, and set goals and continually work to achieve those goals. And there's going to be setbacks, but you can, if you put your best foot forward and strive and never give up, then you're going to achieve what you set your goals for. I'm much like my friend here. My dad introduced all 3 of us into Scouting. And Scouting also, I think, just like Britt said, sets examples for you to achieve and the values that you need to stay with you as you get older. And I think that's where the foundations of my character begin.
Excellent, thank you. My next question is going in a slightly different direction. So I think I'm trying to place myself in the shoes of our students who are with us today, and I think I look up and I see, the Medal of Honor, the highest award you can receive as a soldier, indicating the highest degree of bravery and courage and that sort of thing. And they probably, if I was a student, I might think, oh my gosh, there's no way I could ever kind of attain that level of bravery and courage. I don't know if I have the character, so I shoot for it. So my next question is, we're not perfect, right? So sometimes we look at a finished product and think it has a certain beauty and amazingness to it, but I'm imagining that you might have a story or two from your youth where maybe you fell short of character. You fell short of those expectations of your parents or the drill sergeant who kind of built that into you. So are there any stories of a time you messed up, and because sometimes you can learn lessons from when things go wrong just as powerfully as when things go right. So are there any stories that come to mind to you for, oh my gosh, when I was a kid, this is the biggest I ever messed up?
You know, I think in my case, I'm trying to figure out the one that has the most impact. There were several.
This is an ongoing thing.
Because, you know, you can make mistakes when you get involved and do things and try and not avoid trying the hard things. And, you know, I was told always to try the most difficult thing, and that was possible, and a lot of times I didn't measure up. I failed. But I learned from failing, not that I've quit making mistakes by any means, but I maybe learned to achieve goals that were achievable in some cases within your abilities. You know, a lot of times we're pushed so hard to do things that it's just not possible for us to do. We all have our limitations, you know, and we all have those things that we excel in. And the old military strategy is avoid your weaknesses and capitalize on your strength. And I think going through life, we should identify what we can do best. I know everybody says, oh, you can do anything, just try. Well, yeah, you try and you find out you just can't, I can't keep a beat. Why would I want to play the piano, which my mother wanted me to do? But no, the bottom line is we all make mistakes, and we don't let them get in our way to achieve, look for the things that we can do the most, make the most good for other people. And I just have to say that when I volunteered to go back to Vietnam, and I had the good fortune of leading a lot of draftees in combat. Average age was 18, just below 19, close to the age of a lot of the high schoolers in here. And they were, didn't know what they were there for. And I was worried about making the mistake when I assigned these dangerous missions that we went on. And you just, I know all of you that have been in combat know that when you have someone's life in your hands to get a mission done, that you've got to make the right decision. And you worry about it, it's a burden on you. But I look back on the times I failed, and I'm not going to fail these guys. I would never fail them. And so the takeaway is that try hard, identify what you can be good at, do it. If you didn't pass math, I don't think you're going to be a brain surgeon or something if you didn't pass chemistry or something, but do what you can do.
Excellent. Oh, thank you.
We going down the line?
We can go down the line, or we can go Quaker style.
Sure.
Speak
Okay.
as the Spirit moves you.
So I guess I don't have one from like my childhood. I was glad you took the lead, so I had time to weed out the things that were inappropriate to share in this venue, because that's what most of them are. So it was back when I was a young soldier. It was on my first deployment in Afghanistan. I was a specialist at the time, and I was up for the promotion board, and we were doing a patrol in this desert in southern Afghanistan. That's probably redundant, but we're flying through the desert. It was an area where we had hit a lot of IEDs. We were probably doing faster than we should have. We were doing about 50 in Humvees, and we come over the crest of a hill, and one Humvee's on its side. There's this plume of gray smoke. One of the guys is running out of the vehicle, and I could see he's bleeding from his head and stumbling towards us. My lieutenant got out of the vehicle and ran up there. One of our new, he was actually our first left seat, right seat with our new lieutenant, who was in the vehicle that I thought had been hit by the IED. And just trying to be a good soldier, knowing, okay, we got a limited amount of time. If these guys are hurt, I got to get on the net and let everybody know, start calling up this 9 line. Well, we only had the TACSAT that could reach anybody, and the TACSAT was like a theater-wide radio net. So I had to, clear the net. Hey, everybody, and everybody's listening, whether they're in northern Afghanistan or southern Afghanistan, let them know we just hit an IED, get prepped for 9 line, thinking I'm doing the right thing, saving the day. And my platoon leader comes running back up. I'm like, hey, sir, I got the TACSAT, the net's clear, ready to go, call up the 9 line. And he goes, what did you do? was like, well, we hit an IED. I cleared the net. We're going to get these guys out of here. He's like, that was not an IED. That was just a rollover. Nothing exploded. We're just going to tow this thing back. Yeah. And I felt pretty stupid in that moment, considering, I had all of Afghanistan listening to Chosen 9-2, all proud of myself one minute and feeling pretty sheepish the next. And that stuck with me. I got back to base. We got back. We towed it back. Everybody ended up being okay. But I was just chewing myself up, just thinking like this was a stupid mistake. Good initiative, poor judgment. Like maybe I shouldn't be, a sergeant yet. I'm going to pull myself out of contention. And my team leader talked to me, and the PL, and they all said, hey, look, you made a mistake, but your intentions were in the right place. You were trying to do the right thing. Yes, it was pretty stupid, and the general's asking questions on how this all got mixed up. But they're like, I had brought up taking my name out. I'm like, look, I don't think I should go to the board. Like, obviously, I don't think I'm ready. And my team leader, Sergeant Hinojosa, said, no, you're still going to go. Like, this isn't up to you. You're going. And, a couple lessons I took away from that is, we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And the important part is, what do you learn from it? You get to turn around, and guess what? There's going to be another patrol the next day. Take it, turn around, go out there, learn from it. And, part of that was, if I'm going to make a mistake, I'd rather, fail forward, make one in the positive sense. If the worst thing that could have happened is those guys have been hurt, and at least the birds would have been ready to and spun up to come get us. But also, leaders not expecting perfection from your people, because it's not attainable. And looking at me and knowing, sometimes people will beat themselves up more than you ever could on their failures. And being there to support them regardless of that is a pretty incredible leadership trait.
Excellent. Oh, thank you.
It's a family-friendly one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a really good story from my childhood, but I'm going to share you a story of something from my military time. So this particular time, I'm the command master chief of a team of SEALs, and we just happened to be on a deployment to Iraq, and middle of the night, out in the desert out there, we're on a patrol, and we're going to go apprehend some people that have been doing some pretty terrible things. So Master Chief's role into a SEAL team is he's pretty much, he's like the head coach. He's the trainer. He's making sure everyone's ready to go. Do you have everything you need? Give them a pep speech. We got the battle plan ready, all the plays we're going to do on the field. And then pretty much you go and you send them out to the field. Well, this particular night, I didn't have to be there with them. But I'm just going to go with them, because I always thought it's a leader's job to share in the danger with your men. So I'm going to go with you. Excuse me. So, but I don't want to influence any of your decisions you're going to make. So I'm going to be in the very back, right? You guys just go do whatever it is. I'm going to go be in the back. So I'm on this patrol in the very back. So. A question I have for you is, how many of you ever looked up at the night sky and just been mesmerized by it? Show your hands. How many of you have been mesmerized by it? It's absolutely stunning, is it not? How many of you looked at the night sky through night vision goggles before? Right? Well, when you look at the night sky with night vision goggles, and I will tell you, the amount of stars that you see then amplified 10,000 times. And it's even more stunning. The shooting stars, it is just amazing. So we're on this patrol, we're in Iraq, and I'm in the very back, right? And I am absolutely losing my situational awareness. I'm not paying anything. I'm on a patrol with 40 of perhaps the baddest men on the planet, right? I got nothing to worry about in the world. So I'm not carrying my gun as slung, and I'm just walking along, following the guy in front of me, staring at the night sky, right? Completely out of tune with everything that we're getting. I don't have a care in the world. So this is a problem. So you see, all night long, we've been zigzagging through these holes in the ground, right? So the locals have dug these cisterns in the ground for getting water, right? So I told you we're at night, right? And I'm staring up at the night sky. So we're zigzagging through all these holes. Then all of a sudden, bam, what happens? I fell right in the bottom of this 7 to 8 foot hole.
Oh, no.
So let me lay a little bit of context here for you. This was several years before the medal. This was around in 2006, but I was somewhat of a legend, if you will, to this particular squadron. So here I am, right, the legend, right? I'm in the bottom of the hole, and I got three problems, right? One is I'm in the bottom of the hole and it hurt, right? I mean, my body armor hit me in the head, my goggles rolled, and second problem is I don't know if I can get out of the thing, and three, remember I told you I was last in the patrol? So they might be leaving me. So I was like, man, what am I going to do? So I jump up as high as I can, grab the top of the hole. Am I able to get out of the thing? I crawl up out of the hole, dust myself off. You can imagine it, dusting myself off, big cloud of smoke, get my helmet right, my goggles all right. And I look up, and there's the guy that's been right in front of me, doing his job, looking after me, right, the legend, right? And he's just staring at me. And I'm just like, I got to think of something quick here, right? Well, I mean, what am I going to say? And he's brand new. I mean, I just hired this guy. And I was like, well, okay, what am I going to say? So I get up close to him. I go, look, you say anything to anyone, you're fired and you're walking home. Now, I wish I could tell you I made that story up. It's absolutely true. So the moral of the story is here, it doesn't matter who you are, how much experience you got, what you think your status is, you're still susceptible to making mistakes, interpreting things wrong, and getting distracted. So that was my lesson learned from it.
Well, thank you.
I wish I had that good a story, man.
I wish I didn't have that story.
Good Lord. I've been on those patrols. I probably would say one of the earliest things when I was a child, when I was a kid growing up, my buddies and I, we were always looking for money to doing something. And we found out that back then you could find like soft drink bottles and that kind of thing. They all came in bottles, and you could turn them in and get money for them, the empties. So we'd go around looking for these bottles, and we'd take them in and to the stores, and they'd give us a couple cents a piece or whatever it was for returning them. Well, one of my buddies decided, this is kind of silly. They take cases of these bottles, they put them behind the store. We can just go behind the store, grab a case, take it around front, and sell it. What a great idea. So that seemed like, hey, that's kind of a neat thing to do. So we did. And obviously, you come walking in the store with like 3 cases of bottles. You can see the eyebrows go up on the fella giving you the money. And then we did. We walked out, and we did that, and I started thinking, this is really not right. I'm stealing from the store, who's then paying me to return the items. So I think my conscience got the better of me, and I took the little money that I got and went back to the store, and I gave it to the guy, and I explained to him what happened, and he was really quite nice about it, But it was a lesson that I learned that it doesn't always pay to what you think is going to be something that is worthwhile or pays. It doesn't really pay to do something like that. Now, that being said, that didn't stop me from borrowing things when I was overseas, because as Britt will tell you, the Navy, and I was a Navy SEAL as well, we didn't have the support that other branches of the military had. And so when we were deployed and sent to an area, we pretty much were on our own to support our unit. So the places we would go to get those was, of course, the Army, which was overwhelmed with equipment. So we'd take our little guys, and I never wore my insignia. Until the few times that I wore it over there was now. I put on my little lieutenant bars and drive these big trucks. There are 6x, and drive right on past, right into a little Army base, the biggest base we could find. And we go in there and we trade. Well, we had a lot of captured weapons and stuff, but we traded to the people in there. And while they were giving us some stuff, we'd be over here grabbing air conditioners and refrigerators and everything else we could stick on that truck to make our stay a little bit more comfortable. And then leave the base. And of course, you're leaving the base, you got your bars on, the guys sitting there saluting you. Here we're driving out with 2 truckloads of all this stuff that we could steal out of their place. But you know, it was a different time. It was kind of like, and I'm sure many of you that serve have had to borrow from other places from time to time. But it was interesting. But anyway, that was my first experience.
Hey, I just want to go on record to saying you're not going to approve of this, but Tommy went on to have a very well decorated career in the FBI after all of that.
Yeah, I don't know how I ever made it. But
Busted up those kid rings of stealing bottles and turning them in.
absolutely.
They didn't have polygraphs back then, did they?
All right, I want to get a little bit more serious, and then in maybe like 5-10 minutes or so, I want to turn it over to students who probably have a lot of questions. So if you have a question you want to ask one or a couple of our recipients, please think about it. So I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to go to your questions. But my final question for you is, so we talked a little bit about the foundations of character and where kind of sometimes character goes awry, or you learn these lessons from the things that you do. And the last part is kind of the testing of that character, the forging of it, right? When you build and you create the foundations for this home that you're building, the test isn't when you pull the forms away and it stands up. The test is when the rain comes or when the earth shakes or something like that. That's how strong the character is. For all of you, and the reason you're on the stage today, you've had some pretty intense tests of your character and your bravery. You've faced some overwhelming, almost insurmountable odds at various times in your lives and in your service. And I think about our students and trying to connect to that idea, so they might not be, encountering an overwhelming enemy force at any point in their lives, but there's probably times where they feel overwhelmed by something that's coming at them, whether it's, I got 3 tests tomorrow, or I'm having a huge fight with my friend. How, when you get in the position where your character, where your bravery, where your integrity is being tested at the highest, most intense levels, how do you come through that? Do you have a story of what does it mean to be faced with that kind of intensity?
Everybody looks to Drew.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. No, I think that's a very difficult question, actually, because people often ask, how were you able to do what you did? And simply looking back, when you realize that the situation, first of all, for the action for a Medal of Honor is not for how many enemy you kill or how successful you are on the battlefield, but saving someone's life at the risk of your life. And I think when it comes down to it, more people than not would be willing to do this same thing if it was clear to them that there was definitely life at risk. I mean, you're going to do what you have to do because that's what we do as human beings. We take care of each other. And to avoid that, somebody would be shirking their duties. I mean, we look at a situation where at one point you feel that you're the one that can pull it off. I don't know why that happens. It doesn't mean I'm better than anybody else. It's just in my view of the battlefield or the situation right then, I could take care of the situation. And at the time, didn't realize that what I was doing was all that different than what the other folks were doing to contribute to success of that battle. In my case, I didn't know I was being recommended for the Medal of Honor, so I was pretty sure I just did my job. Didn't find out until many months later. But no, I just, you can't put your finger on it without saying, I did it because I was brave. No, I did it because it needed to be done, and I'm sure that those that were with me would have done the same thing if it was in when they could see it through their vision that they could do it. But there is no way that I will stand up here and say, I'm that great. None of these people would say that. None of these recipients would say. They just did their job, and their job resulted in the saving of someone's life, or several people's lives. So.
I guess when I think a character, to return back to your metaphor of the house, even after when you think it's built, there's still ongoing maintenance. You're going to have to replace a roof. Windows are going to need to be done someday. So I look at character and like today, I'm probably never going to be the person that I want to be. My life is going to be this journey of testing my character constantly to try and become the person that I want to be. And also like Britt said, he's not going to be pouring any forms in the near future or doing drywall, but you pick up the phone and you call somebody else. You don't have to go it alone. And kind of to draw on what Drew said, to think back of the battle that I was in, it wasn't just my character. I look at that day, and let's even say the award is reflective of the character of everybody around me. Because I drew on all the guys. I was just trying to keep up with everybody around me. I was just trying to honor them the same way that they were trying to honor me. And that, the lesson I take away there is it's not always just your character. Look around. There's examples all around us, whether it's family, friends, teachers. It can be younger siblings. It can be anybody. In ordinary situations, it doesn't have to be extreme. That we can look at those examples and understand that, I might not be the person I want to be right now, but that person has achieved it, and I can take the steps I need to become that person that I want to be.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think we all of you, I think, can think back to a crucible moment in your life, and you're faced with a decision that you don't know where to go, left or right on this. And somehow you kind of sort through it. Maybe you made the right decision, maybe you made the wrong one, but the key is that you learn from it and you don't repeat the same mistake again. For me, my biggest crucible moment was the night of March 3rd, 2002, when I was a team leader for a group of 7 SEALs and being ordered to go do a mission, a certain way that was outside how we had trained. But again, to sometimes be a good leader, you got to be a good follower, and you take orders, and you carry those out to the best that you can. So this particular night, my team, we were flying for a helicopter going on top of a very tall mountain, and as anticipated, we took heavy rocket-propelled grenade fire and heavy machine gun fire, bullets the size of your finger passing through the helicopter. And one of my teammates who was standing right next to me fell out of the helicopter because the helicopter was bouncing around. I remember seeing his legs fall out. Now the helicopter took such heavy damage that it crash landed in the valley some 7 miles away. So my crucible moment, my problems are kept on compounding. My original mission, my teammate that fell out, the helicopter down. So I had to do some triage there to figure out what problem I'm going to sort through first, and I took care of my helicopter problem first. And then I take that air crew back to a safe area. Now we're in a safe area, and I've got my team there, and I'm trying to sort through all, as you can imagine, all the badness of what's going on all around us. And how do I make a decision knowing I'm going to take my team back into numerically superior numbers? They have heavier firepower than I do. And I'm short on just about everything you can think of. Ammunition, fuel, batteries, you name it, we don't have it. And I remember very clearly at that moment, I felt absolutely alone. There's people all around me, people talk to me on the radio, but that moment, and I think many of you can relate, you feel really alone. That weight hits your shoulders and you're like, what in the world am I going to do now? And that's the point when it's going to come back to your core convictions of who you are, your decision matrix, what the things that you believe in, the things you will do and will not do in this life. And for me, as I alluded to earlier, it was that Boy Scout oath. And it came back to me as I was sitting there, and I remember in a helicopter, and it's about 30 degrees outside, wearing clothes not much more than what we're wearing here today. Winds whipping through there, And that thought came back to me: on my honor, I'll do my best to do my duty. And it repeated in my head. And then finally I realized it was my duty, based on the promise that I had made to my teammates, that I'm going to come for you and I'm going to get you home. And I made a decision: I'm going to make an immediate attempt to rescue our teammate that moment, then and there. And that led to an engagement that lasted some 14 hours after that. And then, and then the job goes on. You just don't, you're doing this job because it's just your job. This is the decision in front of you. You wish it wasn't yours, but it's there in front of you. And you're the one that's got to sort through it and make that decision. And anyone else would have made the same decision. Any of these guys all here, they've all been in that same position, make the same outcomes. Hey, I'm going to go do this because I'm going to go and I'm going to go make it right. And at the end of the day, that's what we do as Americans. We will go and we will make it right. And that's what we were doing that day.
In my instance, and anyway, the recipients that are here will tell you the same thing. They don't think about what the aftermath is of your action. It's something that needs to be done, and you do it. In my particular instance, there was 2 pilots that I was able to rescue, 3 that were actually shot down. Their flight crew with them was either missing in action or had been captured. 14 people, both in the Army and in the Air Force, had been killed in rescue attempts to try and get these guys out. To me, those guys were the heroes. They gave the ultimate to try and rescue their comrade. I was lucky. And I thankfully worked with some incredibly great people. I had one Vietnamese fellow that was with me for all the rescue operations. They had a couple others that were with me, and they decided it was too dangerous and not to go again. That wasn't an option. It was a job that needed to be done, and we were going to do it, and that was it. We were very lucky. We were fortunate. We were able to get two of the pilots rescued. The third one, unfortunately, was killed later. But it wasn't a matter of this is a heroic action, or this is something that I'm not going to do. That wasn't even entered into the picture. And you don't think about fear doesn't enter into it. It's a job, and you do your job. And each and every one of them out here did that same type of a thing, where their lives were at stake. It was just a situation you were in, and you handle it the best you can. And that's kind of what we'd like to forward to you all, that you have challenges in your life, and it's how you handle those challenges that makes you who you are and is part of your character. Sometimes you can not particularly prevail, but that doesn't mean you quit. You just find another way to get around and achieve the goal that you're after. And that moment is who you are, and what you do with yourself and your life. What's in you is your own decisions. Anybody can achieve whatever you want if you don't give up. You just keep trying, keep banging at it, and keep going forward. But like I say, I was very fortunate, and to me, the heroes of the actions that I was involved in were those that gave the ultimate sacrifice in trying to save their comrades. Those are the true heroes.
Thank you very much. So we're going to go to student questions now. So if you are a student, if you have a question, raise your hand nice and high. We have a team who's walking around with microphones. Wait until you get the microphone. So if we call on you, and I hope we get a chance to get to as many students as possible, a couple of things. One, please tell us your name and which school you're from. And then two, to the best that you can, please direct your question to one or two of the recipients, because I'd like to get as many students the opportunity to ask a question as possible. So we will start. Looks like Jason's ready over there.
Hello, my name is Maya, and I'm from Topaz Preparatory Academy. I have a question for Britt Sablan. How do you think your father was a big influence to you?
Yeah, my father was a big influence on me. He had the forethought to, one, get me involved in scouting, which, again, proved to be the cornerstone of my life. But he also, I'm a legacy kid, so my father was an underwater demolition team, or the precursor to the SEAL teams. So, when I was in high school, making my decision, what am I going to do? Am I going to go on and follow the next education path, or go in the service? What am I going to do? He took me and introduced me to his SEAL team buddies. And when I saw the camaraderie that he had with them, it just made sense that this is something that I want to go do. So when the time came for me to make that decision, I had all these different paths in me. And because my dad, he laid a few things out in front of me and said, hey, these are some of your options. And he gave me that foundation to make those decisions with, in accordance certainly with my mom's help, helped illuminate that path for me. So it was invaluable to have his help.
Thank you. We're going to go up to upper mezzanine level up there.
Hi, I'm Dylan Gobi. I'm in the 5th grade from Towers Elementary School. I have a question for Drew Dix, and that is, what year did you get your Medal of Honor?
What year did you get your Medal of Honor?
It's a little bit ancient history. I received the Medal of Honor on January 16, 1969, from President Johnson.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We're going to go to the
back. Like 50-some years ago.
We'll go here, then there, then there.
Hello, my name is Cadet Lieutenant Joseph O. I have a question for Lieutenant Norris. I'm also a leader on our NJROTC unit, and I was wondering what leadership style that you prefer works best for your teams when you lead.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, so the question was, he's a leader in his JROTC unit, and is asking you what leadership style did you prefer and that you found worked best when working with teams?
Well, that's interesting. To me, a good leader, not only does he have to be very knowledgeable in the position that he's leading or the men that he's leading, he has to be very adept at doing that as well. But to me, a good leader sees that his people under him get what they need to succeed, get the training that they need to succeed, get the equipment they need to succeed, and he backs them to the ultimate. And he's there. He also is there to be a part of the event that they're part of. In my experiences throughout, not so much in the SEAL teams, because we were a particularly select group of people. All of that had been pretty much determined by the time they even let us become a member of those teams. But in federal government, which I worked for 20 years as an FBI agent, you run into different type of managers. And some of them are more interested in where their career is going and what they need to do to get that career path graduated. And they don't care so much about seeing that the people that are doing the job is going to get them that path, what they need to succeed. They're more interested in where I'm going and what's best, what's in it for me, than it is for who's doing the job so that I can achieve, and am I seeing that they need to have what they should have in order to achieve their goals. So I think a good leader does that. I think he has to know the quality of the people that are under him, those that need help, you get help for them. those that are very competent and capable get what they need in order to get their job done. And be sure that you support them no matter what.
Great. Thank you very much. We're going to go back up to the mezzanine over here.
Hello, my name is Girish Mishra. I am in 5th grade at Towers Elementary School. How many people have you saved, and how does it feel?
Was that for a specific recipient or just kind of broadly to the group?
All of them.
All of them. Okay. So, how many of you saved? How does it feel to be able to save?
How many to save? And you know, there was 14 civilians, American civilians, and a couple Allied civilians was able to rescue during that battle. But how it made me feel at the time, I don't know if I felt the full value of being able to save someone that had mostly volunteered their services over there. But over the years, I get a letter from, in fact, the last was was a phone call from a young girl from, or wasn't so young, I guess, but in the Philippines, and her father was one of the Filipinos that I rescued, and she said it was in the middle of the night, so I'm not sure where the phone call was coming, what the source of it, why, but she said, every Christmas, my father says, give thanks to God and give thanks to Drew Dix because you wouldn't be here. I never realized what that would mean, because in the middle of the night, I'm having this conversation, and my wife is saying, well, what's wrong? I said, I just got this amazing phone call. It makes you feel good. So you never know how long or what the benefit is of helping somebody. And then I got a letter from somebody not long ago that lived in Boston up there, and he was one of the civilians, and I didn't even know him by name. And he's getting old. He obviously had some health issues, but he said, I want to make sure that I need to, I'm not sure if I live my life that was worthy of you risking your life to give me a second chance. And so those are powerful, powerful statements that you don't ask for, but it's the benefit that you get through your life that you look back on those kinds of things. So.
You know, I think when it comes to, if somebody were to say how many did I save, I think it's subjective. You know, some might say 8 fallen Americans kept them from their remains being recovered by the enemy. People in the unit might say more. When I look at it, I've never looked at those that I was able to bring home. For me, I've always looked at it as what I wasn't able to do that day. The fact that we lost 9 guys, 8 at the position that I was at, and that they really died so that I could be here. Every single one of them died fighting. Sergio Obad, Jonathan Ayers, Jason Bogar, Jonathan Brostrom, Israel Garcia, Jason Hovader, Pruitt Rainey, Gunnar Zwilling, and Matthew Phillips. And that them laying down their lives so myself and the rest of the guys could come home, that's sacrifice. I sacrificed nothing that day. I'm still here. I've been able to come home and have a family and kids and stay in touch with all my friends. And that's the way that I've looked at it, as much as there's that pain that in my mind, I failed. I didn't help bring them home. But I have an obligation to honor the sacrifice that they made, to think about, live life with character that's worthy of their sacrifice. And I ask myself all the time, am I living a life that they would be proud of? Am I making the most of the gift that they gave me? You know, and as hard as it was emotionally to lose them, it gives me strength to know that I just knew people like that, incredible men like that would lay down their lives for their brothers around them.
Yeah, I guess I have no idea how many we collectively saved on all of our deployments. I guess the answer would be, it's never enough. Always want to try to do more. Can we do more? Can we give more? What more could we have done? And at the end of the day, that's just who we are. Some of the stuff you're most proud of. As I remember, some of the work that we've done. And the sacrifices of our teammates, some of the our happiest moments are deployments, and you're walking down some of these villages and you see the children where days before our presence, the streets were deserted, and then you come out there and you see the children are starting to play in the streets and they're laughing, and more importantly, the girls are out there in the streets. And you've seen the bazaars open and more the schools opening. You know, that's the piece. That's really what we're there for, is, hey, just going to give them, all of them, a chance to fulfill all of their dreams collectively. So those were some good moments of hopefully giving hope to people for us.
Yeah, I'm with Britt. I don't think you always wonder what more could I have done. I mean, I only had a couple tours over to Vietnam. I was very proud about helping the orphanages, particularly American Vietnamese children, which weren't that well thought of. We would set up orphanages and help those kids. I know a number of the missions we ran stopped mortar and rocket attacks on bases and on military bases, as well as some of the local city areas. And of course, on the rescue mission, where you have immediate recognition of the fact that you were able to save the lives of two fellow Americans. But when you think about it after, other than the fact that I was very, very thankful that I was able to, and happy that I was able to bring those two individuals, get them out of the situation they were in, I don't think I really thought much about it beyond that. I mean, you just then go on to your next mission and you forget about what the mission you just been on. You've got continuously other missions to run, and I mean, I was very fortunate in the fact that I was almost killed on a mission 6 months after I did the rescue mission I was recognized for, and it was another mission that ran up into North Vietnam to see whether a naval base could be retaken. Heavy firefight, and during which time I was wounded very severely, and I had another SEAL with me who saved me, and his name was Mike Thornton, and he received the Medal of Honor for that. It's like you go from one to the next, and you only wish or only hope that what you're doing is beneficial to the people you're trying to do it for. And when we're sent to do a job, American servicemen is, no matter where it is, we do the best that we possibly can. And thankfully or hopefully, other countries or other places can enjoy some of the wonderful freedoms that we have because of what we've done. And I continually thank those young men and women that serve for us today and allow us to continually enjoy the great country that we have. And I'm very thankful that I had a small opportunity to be part of those people. And of course, always been very humbled and appreciative of not only those that serve today, but particularly the other recipients that I've had the pleasure and the joy of meeting and learning as being a recipient myself. But it's I think, like Britt said, you always wish that you could do more, that you did enough.
Thank you. All right, I see we got 5 questions in the queue, so here's what we're going to do, because we're coming short on time. I want the 5 students who are up and ready to go. I'm going to make sure that each one of you gets a question, but what I'd like you to do is ask it specifically to one of our recipients. That way we can have enough time to get to all of them, and then we'll kind of wrap up with a final word from each of our recipients. So you've been waiting very patiently. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cadet Technical Sergeant Victoria Ingham from Valencia High School. My question is towards Mr. Lubrinsky. How has your perspective on your life changed after receiving the Medal of Honor? Because to us, we see you as a hero, just like all the other recipients. How has your perspective changed?
Yeah, so I've never viewed myself as that. You know, and I could tell you, when I got the call from the president, or even before that, when the Secretary of Defense called me, I said, hey, don't do this to me. I didn't do anything special, right? There were 7 Americans lost their lives up there, 7 others that just so severely wounded, and everybody gave something there. You know, I think all of us will say, why me? I just did my job. So, you know, that the day then the award comes, it's really a pretty heavy day for you. And my first time meeting all these gentlemen here, and I'm sitting here right now thinking, what am I doing in this chair? Why am I here, right? With all these great people here. Yeah, I still feel like I don't belong. So, you know, day by day, I just go back and being, hey, the best person I can do today. That's what choice do I have today? I'm going to be the best that I can be today, and do the same tomorrow.
Thank you. All right. We're going to go up to the mezzanine here and then there. So we'll start over here.
Hello, my name is Jenna Eisenberg. I'm in 5th grade at Towers Elementary. I have a question for Tommy. What was the process like going in the military?
The process of going in the military. Well, during my time frame, we had this little thing called a draft. So before that happened, I volunteered. I had just completed college, got my college degree, and had planned to go to law school, but at that particular time, I guess draft boards could select who they wanted, and they were exempting medical students, and that was about it. So I put up my hand and said, okay, pick me, pick me. It was an interesting experience. I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be a Navy A4 pilot. Thought that would be the greatest thing in the world. I got the flight school late because the plane was diverted because of weather, so I had to get bussed in, and I got bussed into the Pensacola late, and that's not a happy thing when you have Marine drill instructors. Your day, you know, from the start is not going to be a nice one. But in essence, that's how I started my military career. I was fortunate enough to be able to pass the screening test to become to go through a basic underwater demolition SEAL training, and became a SEAL after that. And of course, it was a fabulous career, and I worked with some incredibly great people, and they obviously still have those people today. But wonderful experience. But that's how it started.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to the other side of the mezzanine up there.
My name is Isa. I'm from Towers Elementary School, and my question to Ryan Pitts is, do you ever get scared during combat?
Do you ever get scared during combat? Yeah, absolutely. All the time. But you know what I always focused on, and all the guys that I served alongside is, you know, they show me what love is, and love is caring more about other people than you care about yourself, and that'll trump fear every time.
Excellent. We had one there, and I think we had one more in the middle too. So we'll go here and then there.
Hello, my name is Logan Scott Lombardi from Doty Middle School, and my question is for Ryan Pitts as well. In all of the difficult situations you've been thrust into unexpectedly, which one were you able to persevere through the most?
Of all the different, I mean, aside from parenthood, I would say that day, the Battle of Wanat, that had to do with this. And again, you know, to kind of reiterate the same theme, it was all about the people around me. You know, it's like you look at any great team and you're better than the sum of your parts. You all can make each other better than you really are. And those guys made me better than I really was that day. And I mean, the only reason that I'm here is because of the sacrifices that they made they're greater than anything that I did. And I was just trying to keep up with all of them. And I think that's just the same as any difficult situation I've ever been in, whether it's parenthood or the battle, is you don't have to go through it alone. You know, there's nothing wrong with asking for help and leaning on other people and being there for other people when they need help.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And our last question, right down here in the middle.
Hello. My name is Brendan French from Lawrence Middle School. And my question is directed toward Drew Dix. How do you feel when you were enlisted into the military?
How did I feel when?
When you were enlisted? When you enlisted?
How would I feel when I was enlisted?
How did you feel when you enlisted?
When you came in the military.
When you came in the military, how did you feel?
How did I feel when I came in the military? You know,
blows your mind.
Yeah, I thought that was the question. I wasn't sure. You know, I went in the military at 17 and a half. I had a good home life, but I wanted out of home. I wanted to be on my own. And I felt this was a great opportunity for me to do that. I admired my father a lot. He was in World War II as a man in the infantry. And I just felt that I'm able now to start to, everyone looks for identity, and I was looking for mine. And I associated being in the military as the way to look for an identity. And I think everybody is looking for identity all the time. And I think you need to find out what it is that gives you that opportunity to demonstrate yourself, express yourself. Thanks for the question.
Excellent. All right. So thank you, students. So now, we just have a few minutes left, and I wanted to bring it back to where we started. Today we started talking about foundations of character. We used the metaphor of the house and Britt's experience building one up in Idaho to get us started. And so now I want to close with that same idea, some closing thoughts. You know, as you kind of step back, you look at this house of character that you've built, and you have one kind of final piece of advice, something, if all our students who are in the audience with us today, if you have one thing you want them to take away as they head back to school and in their communities and they look forward to the lives they had ahead of them, what's one piece that they should hold on to from what they've heard today? And I think we've started.
I can start with that one. I think everybody knows the difference between right and wrong. And like on the battlefield, you make the right decision at split second. If you think about a decision too long, you're considering the bad ones. So go for the right decision, stay the right course, and you'll do right in your life.
I think becoming the person you want to be is a lifelong pursuit. Kind of to reiterate what I said before, you know, who you are today may not be who you want to be, but keep working at it your entire life and embrace, you know, going after the hard things. Nothing easy is ever worth doing.
If we could all of you, just for a second, take a look at our nation's flag over here and look at the colors. You look at the red, the white, and the blue. The red, you know, stands for blood and everything, all the sacrifice has been given for it. The white, innocence, purity. The blue, justice. And it means many other things. Also, what's in there is our Constitution. It's our Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence. And you think of all the other things that the flag means to all of you collectively. The thing that no one really readily ever sees is the thing that holds all of that together, which of course is what? Well, it's the thread, isn't it? No one ever sees it, pays any attention to it. You think of a flag blowing in the wind that's just getting shredded at the end, and that last little piece of fabric, that last little piece of thread, just holding on, giving all it's got in the storm to hold on, doing its part until it can't give anymore, and then the next one picks up. The next teammate in the line picks up. And for us, this is the way I look at our citizenship. This is who we are, right? All of us have to do our duty, going unseen, unrecognized, holding the line, so to speak, so that all of us, all of you, can fulfill your dreams. All of you have dreams. You just got to have the courage to go after them and get them. And if we do our part, we hold the line, how we all promise to live our lives together, you can fulfill those dreams here.
And I'm going to follow the same thought. My feeling is that everyone here, particularly the students, believe in yourself, follow your dreams, and know they can be achieved. And don't let the bumps in the road defeat you. Trust in what you can do, and you'll be able to achieve the greatness that you would like to have. And certainly my best wishes go out to all of you. You are our future. You're the ones we're going to be looking up to as you grow older and the things you do in your own life. Actually, it's an honor and a pleasure to be able to spend a few moments with you and relate some of our experiences. And we look forward to hearing all of your experiences or seeing them as you evolve. So believe in yourself and never give up.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, a couple things. One, if you want to see more, so just a minute, we're gonna take our recipients upstairs. They're going to be signing copies of the Medal of Honor book, which tells the stories of so many different Medal of Honor recipients. So if you have an opportunity, we'd love for you to come up and you can say hi and get your book signed. Two, I think President Reagan, we're in the Reagan Library, would have been so incredibly honored to have all of you here and all of you here today. He, in an address to the Medal of Honor Society back in, I think, '83, aboard the Intrepid, he said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be both preserved and passed from one generation to the next." And so on behalf of all of us who are on our team here, all of us who are in the audience, we want to say thank you for doing your part, both to preserve it on the battlefield and to pass it on from one generation to the next through this work and through the work with students that you're doing today. So thank you very much, and please join me in thanking our panel today.